From Social Prosperity Partners, this is Community Catalysts.
I've always been on that side where I'm saying I'm not just a file. And now I'm sitting on a side where someone's coming to me and saying, my child is not just another student, or I'm not just another employee. Like, I'm human, and whatever decision you make is going to affect my life. That's hard sometimes. It's really hard.
Welcome to Community Catalysts. I'm your host, Matt Lehrman. Leadership in local governance rarely feels finished or settled. Decisions are made close to home, often with incomplete information and in full view of the people you serve. You work through disagreement not only with colleagues, but with friends, neighbors, and community members you'll continue to see long after the vote is taken. And you keep moving forward, even while you're still learning what good judgment looks like in practice. This podcast is a place to sit with those realities, to reflect out loud, and to learn from other local leaders who are also navigating complexity while the work is still unfolding. My guest today brings the perspective of someone early in their governance journey and thoughtful about what that learning curve requires. Maiaika Velazquez is the Area 4 trustee for the Monterey Peninsula Unified School District, serving a community along California's Central Coast that encompasses a wide range of lived experiences and economic realities. As a first-term trustee, she's experiencing firsthand what it means to be outvoted, to stay engaged through disagreement, and to grow into the responsibilities of board leadership. I'm especially looking forward to learning how she's making sense of those early lessons in governance. Maiaika Velazquez, welcome to Community Catalysts.
Thank you for having me, Matt.
I'm so glad to meet you. And let me just ask you, before we talk about your leadership journey, it just helps us all to understand the place where you're in itself. Tell me about the Monterey Peninsula. I have to tell you, I was there once, the summer after my freshman year of college. I've never been back to Monterey. Tell me about your community. Tell me about the community that the school district serves.
Okay, so we serve the Monterey Peninsula. That our district includes the cities of Monterey, Seaside, what actually was a former military base, Fort Ord, for many years. It closed in, I believe, 1994 under Bill Clinton, and in the city of Marina. So those are going to be the three cities that we serve. It's very diverse, from low income all the way up to wealthy. I mean, we're right by Pebble Beach. We're next to Carmel. So it's a very diverse community. Even though it's on the map, like people know about Monterey, it still has like a small town feel. But yeah, it's a very diverse student body. We have a high percentage in regards to the Latino community. That's probably our largest community. Then I would say followed by wider European descent, and then Black and Asian.
How many students in the district?
Just under 9,700 this year.
9,700. So, Maiaika, many people care deeply about their community, but far fewer step into formal governance. And I'm really interested to ask you, what was happening in your life or in your community that moved you from being someone who cared to being someone who was willing to step up and take the responsibility of serving on the school board?
Yes. Well, I come from the parent side. So I actually don't come from an education side. I come from the parent side of the desk. Normally the parents that are coming to the school board to ask about something or to even complain about something that is happening with their child or whatever. I had a group of community members that actually asked me to run based on what they knew about me, my activity within the community in regards to, I was a personal assistant for a woman well known here on the peninsula for her nonprofit. She basically advocated for the community when the base closed. And so I was her personal assistant. And then there were other things that, of course, I was involved in. And so when we had a redistricting, there was a new area that came up, which was my area. And they asked me to run, and I was like, "Oh, I don't know if I should do this. I don't think so. I don't know. I don't think this is for me." And
Malika, take me through that. Slow down that moment for a second. Tell me, between the time that they suggested you do this and when you finally agreed to do it, like, first off, I don't know how long ago that was, but how long did it take to
okay,
get from
so
the, oh, no, not me, to, okay, I think I will?
I don't think I ever got to that point, but what happened, so this was the last week to turn in paperwork at the elections board. I was contacted on a Monday. This was in August of 2022. I was contacted on a Monday, and the person told me, "Yeah, this is what's happening, and there's a new area, and you're right here in the center, and we just feel like you should do this."
That
And
you should run. They said you should run.
I was like, You do know who you're talking to, right?" And I said, I have to think about that. I don't know about that. I don't know. I don't know. I actually have my godfather here, or the person I call my godfather here. He passed away, but he used to be the mayor here, and he was also on city council. And I remember once telling him, uh, because him and his wife were telling me, like, "Oh, you should be in politics, and you have a lot of opinions, and you're well studied, and you should be in politics." And I remember saying something like, "I'm allergic to politics. I don't want anything to do with politics." And so I told my friend that called me. I said, "I'm going to think about it, and I will get back to you."
So let me just make sure I understand. So it's Monday. The deadline is when?
Friday.
And you've got a job. You've got kids at home. You've got a life.
Well, I have one. So I'm the mother of a special needs child. My son is on the autism spectrum, and I actually homeschool him. And this is due to his eloping. He was known to elope when I tried to put him in other programs. So because of that, I homeschool him.
So you basically, you have a pretty full life already.
Yeah.
And it's Monday.
Yes.
Tell me about the rest of that week.
And so I just kept going back and forth. Like, I don't know if I should do this. I don't think this is for me. I think I called her on Thursday and I said, "Well, tell me a little bit more. What exactly would I need to do?" Because she's actually on the board for the community college. And I was like, "Well, what," and she's like, "You're going to enforce policy, but you could also help create, and shape policy, and you'd be a voice for the community in regards to maybe some things that aren't being recognized." And I said, "Just give me another day. Still keep looking for other candidates."
What are the kinds of things that you could be a voice for that might not have a voice?
I am a mother transitioning from being low income to working class. I would say that. And so there were these things that a lot of the parents felt that maybe weren't being heard. One of the issues, I guess, that was happening during COVID, and it wasn't just in our district, because I talked to parents that live in Salinas too and in other areas. But I know during COVID, one of the things that parents would talk to me about was the internet. I don't have a computer at home. And people just think that's so, like, what? They don't have, and it's like, no, a lot of poor families don't have computers at home, or they don't have internet. Maybe they had a computer, maybe they had internet, things got hard, and it's like, ooh, rent, internet. Okay, we're going to cut off the internet. This was in 2020. So these were like things that they're reminding me of, like, remember what happened during COVID,
Yeah.
and people didn't understand that there were families without computers at home. And, they're like, you could be a voice to that, in regards to school lunches, in regards to, special needs, your special needs, and the advocacy in regards to things happening with our special needs students. They're like, you could be a voice to that. So,
okay, so we're up Thursday of this week, and then what?
And so Friday, the deadline was Friday at 5 p.m. I got there at 4:30 because I still was like, I don't know about this. But I had all the paperwork, filled out, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this. And so I filed my paperwork. It was 4:49. And she said, "Well, I'm just going to tell you right now, if someone doesn't come in the next 10 minutes, this is yours." I was like, "Wait, no,
You were
there's
the
like a
only
process. I
candidate.
have to." Yeah, that's what she said. And I'm like, no. I said, "You must be mistaken. There's a process I have to, I have to run. there's going to be another person. And she said, well, no, the way it works is it's no one comes in at 5 o'clock, it's yours. And then I'm like, can I take back my paperwork? Because I'm like, this is like, you're telling me there's going to be a definitive decision in like 10 minutes. I wasn't expecting that. And so, no, I filed the paperwork, and then it actually took until Sunday because I guess my paperwork got misplaced along with other candidates that filed around the same time as me. So there was like a stack of files that got put somewhere. So I'm thinking, oh, see, someone else came in and filed. They didn't call me because she said, they'll call you to let you know that you got the seat. And so I didn't get a phone call. So I was like, see, I knew someone else. Someone else rushed in and they had their stuff done. And so there's going to be like 3 of us running against each other or whatever. And so nothing happened. So then the same friend called me on Saturday and she said, you won. And I was like, no, I didn't win because they didn't call me. And she was like, what? I was like, no, I didn't get a phone call. So I think there was some other candidates. And she's like, really? So then she calls me on Sunday and she's like, no, you won. And they were wrong for not letting you know. And I said, I said, I'm not upset. I'm, just, she's like, no, someone's going to be calling you in the next 5 or 10 minutes. And so the lady from the elections board called me and let me know, like, oh no, we have what's called you won in lieu. And I was like, in lieu of what? And she was like, in lieu of no one else applying for the job.
So it was August
of 2022.
If there had been an election, would there have been a primary before November, or it would have just been for the November ballot?
So yeah, it would have been for the November ballot because that year would have been the primary in between the presidential elections.
So does that mean then that you had to wait until after November to be officially elected to the position and then get sworn in after that?
So basically, she told me that I was the new Area 4 trustee, but I did not get sworn in until December. So we have our organizational meeting is the first meeting of December. So though I was sworn in, or though I had the position, I had got elected in lieu, along with another board member, Dr. Lusk, we were not sworn in again until December. Well, her again, but me, I wasn't sworn in until December.
So Maiaika, you now have won in lieu in August. You get sworn in December.
It wasn't just that though. There was more. So what happened is I had applied to be a commissioner for my city. And so totally not thinking about that. And I had already interviewed with the mayor because the mayor appoints the commissioners. When this happened, and then I got the call saying, oh, and guess what else? You're also a city commissioner. I was like, oh no, what does that mean? Can I do that? Can I do both? So I had to make sure that, and this is between August and December, so I had to make sure that I could do both positions and it wouldn't be like a conflict of interest or anything like that. And I've been really careful about that because sometimes in regards to the commission I serve is called the CSAC. It's the Community Safety Advisory Commission. And we kind of we interface between the Seaside Police Department and our Seaside residents. And so, of course, sometimes there's a case maybe that has to deal with a student and things like that. So I'm very careful about not mixing the two or having information as a commissioner that I don't have as a board member, or having information as a board member, say like in a closed session, that I make sure like we don't share information.
I understand.
So it was one of those things that's like, oh, wait, so now I'm both. Like, oh my gosh,
So Maiaika, I'm really interested. When did the weight of the elected office, when did it first feel real to you?
Actually, before I was sworn in, being a new school board member and I hadn't been sworn in yet. I hadn't gone through, it's not that we have a training, but I hadn't, we have like a handbook now, but at the time, like I hadn't spoken to my superintendent yet. There was a lot of things going on. The media was reaching out to me and they were asking questions and I'm like, I'll answer those questions, And luckily at the time, I had a friend that was like, no, you can't just answer questions. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. They're like, yeah, no, you don't just answer questions. And I'm like, well, what do I do? And they're like, well, normally you talk to your communications team. I was like, oh, well, I haven't met anyone yet because I won in lieu. I haven't been able to talk to anyone yet. And they're like, yeah, be careful about just answering questions. But yeah, so it was very early on, like, oh my gosh, I could have made like a big, blunder, and I wasn't even in the seat yet.
It sounds like the kind of error that people would make all the time, right? You've been elected, you applied, so you feel kind of authorized to talk about things you care, right? And all of a sudden you realize you don't want to get, I guess the expression would be, you don't want to get out over your skis, right? You don't want to be
Yeah,
off balance. You want to make sure that you're actually taking care of the school district in not just how you apply, but whether you apply. Reply to
exactly.
those kinds of questions.
And so I actually ended up not replying, and that was under the advice of multiple people, because they're like, this is something that's already voted out. We don't have them. So why are you going to even put energy,
Hmm.
towards that? And so then I would get approached, of course, by people I don't know, and they're like, you're Trustee Velasquez, right? And I'm like, oh, yes, I am. Because I had to get used to that name too. Like, trustee. Uh, I have to admit, there were a couple times where I was, I think in the grocery store, and someone saying trustee, trustee. And of course, not being used to being called by that, I kept walking until they tapped me on the shoulder, and they're like, trustee, you're Trustee Velasquez, right? And I'm like, oh, you were calling me. I am so sorry. And so, you will, the stakeholders, they will, I pick up my mom from church and someone recognizes me. I go to Home Depot, someone recognizes me. So I did have to get used to that. And then of course my baby, because he's very shy. So he's like, strangers are coming up to us, mom, why are, um, and so that, and then I had one parent come to me and cry, something was happening or whatever. So like those type of things, it's like, wow, like, oh yeah, this is really important. Not to say
Hmm.
that I didn't know it was important, but like you feel it because someone's coming up to you,
Oh.
or like even, of course you go through negotiations in regards to staff, whether it be classified or unclassified staff. And so I know when we were going through that, my first time going through that would have been 2023. And I want to say a teacher, I believe she was a teacher that approached me in Walmart. And it was just, realizing these are people, these are our lives. And that, I think that was one of the things that I really connected with, because having my son, my special needs child, and then I was also a caregiver for my nephew. He ended up passing away in May,
I'm sorry.
but we were always advocating for both of them. I had been in his meetings, been in my son's meetings. And a lot of times when you're in these meetings talking to these government entities, because they have so many files, right? They have files. They're like, well, we're doing based on whatever our policy is. Like, this is what we can do. And it's like, but we're human, and we need you to see that we're not just a file. And so I've always been on that side where I'm saying I'm not just a file. And now I'm sitting on a side where someone's coming to me and saying, my child is not just another student, or I'm not just another employee. Like, I'm human, and whatever decision you make is going to affect my life. That's hard sometimes. It's really hard.
Malika, I asked this question of a lot of people who've taken the oath of office, and very often I hear people say, well, the weight of this settled on me when I saw the size of the budget, or I considered the vast number of students that we serve and all of that. It's really interesting to hear you say that it wasn't the statistics or the logistics or the size of the district. It's the individuals. It's the individual stories that have impact. That's what resonates with you, and it touches you really deeply, doesn't it?
It does, because I've been on that side of the table. One of the things that I'm trying to reconcile with now. So I came in this position, or accepted this position, because it's like, oh, well, maybe we can make change from within. A lot of people, even with the commission, I'm someone who's actually the victim of police trauma. But I'm thinking, well, maybe on this commission, there's a chance for change from within. And so same thing with the school board is, there's change from within, but, we move based on policy. And so sometimes it's hard because it's like, yeah, you have to consider the budget, right? You have to look at the budget. But for me, having come from that other side of the table, I know that it's like, yeah, I have to look at the budget as a school member, but I've also been that person that's like, I'm not just a file, you know? And so it is hard to reconcile that at times. Now, one thing I will say in Monterey, as beautiful as it is, the cost of living is increasing here greatly. And one of the things is we're getting an influx because the property was so quote unquote cheap here. We're getting an influx from the Bay Area because we're only like, depending upon where you need to work or whatever, we're like an hour, maybe 2 hours out. And so people were starting to come here and purchase property, which made the property values really shoot up. So like most of my friends, like me, we live with our parents. Like if you don't have family here already, it is so hard to find something affordable, especially if you're a young family. I mean, apartments are about $3,000, very hard for young couples and just individuals to find a place. So it's one of those things that they're struggling with the fact that they're even having trouble living in the area where they work, trying to live within district borders. And then on top of that, they're there for our students. They love their job, and our students actually need them, especially right now because of everything that's going on. And it's like they might have to be cut. It's hard for me to reconcile that because I know I'm a school board member. I understand that, but at heart, I'm still a community member. And that part is hard for me. It is.
Maiaika, what you just described, that sure sounds like the weight of responsibility.
Yeah.
One of the things that I have to say is that, and I believe, is that when you campaign for office, again, if you had actually had to run a campaign, that's all about appealing to a constituency and getting them to vote for you. But when you take the oath of office, all of a sudden, you are responsible for the betterment of the entire district, of the entire community. So tell me what it means when you say, but be authentic, know the voice, what you're trying to, who you're trying to represent.
Well, that's the thing. So when we take the oath of office, we're responsible for the entire community. But the thing is that includes the voices that aren't being heard, because that's the thing, to be responsible for the entire community has to have a voice. And oftentimes when you're dealing with, a lot of times it's government bureaucracy, you're dealing with that. What I've discovered is a lot of times people make decisions for people that they haven't even spoken to. That's what I mean by like, bring yourself with you, because there may be something that is not being addressed, but it's because no one's voiced that concern before, and then you're wondering, well, why are these people so mad? It was like, well, did you address what their issue was? Like, have you,
Maiaika, I want to change gears for just a second, because we started out this conversation talking about how it's a personal impact that first gave you the sense that the work that you were doing was important. And we don't have a lot of time, but I want to ask you about this prom closet project that you initiated. Give people a sense of how hands-on you are, not just as a school board member, but as a volunteer doing important work in your community. Explain that whole concept.
Okay, so the prom closet, that came from, so it initially started where I asked the superintendent, I was like, we have students that go to prom, but their parents don't have cars. Do they have do we have transportation? Do we offer a bus? Do we, and he was like, oh, yeah, that's something that, we can usually do. We can cover transportation for them or something. And I was like, oh, that's great. So then later on that night, because sometimes I'm a night owl, like I said, I think it was like around 2. And I'm like, wait a minute, what about clothing? And I started thinking about how when I was in high school attending this district, so I got to attend 3 proms. I attended a junior prom, a senior prom, and then I actually attended a senior prom at another high school because a friend of mine, his date 2 days before prom said she's not going. And so I ended up attending 3 proms. But the way I was able to attend them is because 1, my date's paid, right? And then 2, my mother's a seamstress. And so my material was purchased, my dress was made, and then I got to go to prom. Now, on the flip side, my older brother did not get to go to prom. His girlfriend wanted to go to prom. He couldn't afford it. My mom couldn't afford it. She went with her friends or whatever, but he didn't get to go. He didn't get to go to junior or senior prom. And it was because we couldn't afford it. So then I started thinking like, oh my gosh, what about clothes? So then I made like I don't think it was a request. I think I was just like a board member communication. I was asking, could we hold a prom drive? I'm thinking like, this is going to be a great idea. We're going to love this idea. And so it was like, oh, that sounds nice. But that was the end of it. That this was in 2023. I was like, okay, so I guess if this is going to happen, guess I'm going to have to do it, So I got the permission from the superintendent and his admin. She's my angel. Her name is Janet. She helped me. I did the footwork in regards to getting clothing. I drove all over, picking up clothes. And I even got there's 2 local dumps involved. So they got clothes.
So you were getting donations of prom dresses and tuxedos and things like that?
It was all donations, mainly dresses. There was a dress shop in Georgia. They fit women for pageants. And they sent us 43 gowns and dresses. Trader Joe's came in with food. Costco sponsored us. And then it just grew. So we actually outgrew that. We were at the former library at one of the high schools the first year. And it was just me and one other volunteer. And then Janet came and a couple board members showed up and they kind of helped.
If someone's listening to this interview and they have a dress or a tuxedo or something that would be great for your prom closet, can they send it to you?
This is the thing. I will take as many dresses as my racks can hold. The main thing right now that we are in need of, and unfortunately, it's going to be a situation where I have to purchase them or they have to be donated. No matter where you are in this country, if you are throwing a prom drive, the one thing that you are impacted by is a lack of suits and tuxedos. That's why if you look at most prom drives are actually dress drives. And it's not because we have something against the students that want to wear a suit or tuxedo. It's because menswear lines, because this is their bread and butter, they can't afford to donate during the spring season. They have weddings and they have prom. And that's how they make their money. Of course, they're businessmen that buy suits year round, but this is their bread and butter, so they cannot. And so...
Is there a website or an address to point people to, or do you want to just say how people can send things to you, especially if it's tuxedos?
They can send it to our district office. Our superintendent's name is Dr. Diffenbaugh. That's at 700 Pacific Street in Monterey. Zip code is 93940.
I'll put a link in the program notes.
We also have an Amazon registry where if someone wants to purchase a suit and send it to us, that would be really great.
Maiaika, I have to bring us to a close, and I have 2 questions I want to ask you as we begin to wrap up.
Okay.
The first is, if you compare the Maiaika who first stepped into this position on the school board with the Maiaika who I'm interviewing today, what feels like it's changed the most about you?
Well, I've definitely become more comfortable with people approaching me. I feel like I'm learning. I feel like I might not be fluent in the language of school board policy, but I speak it a little bit. Like some things, when I hear them in the meeting, I'm like, oh yeah, I know what that is. Oh yeah, I know that. So I think I'm in that phase where I'm like, yeah, I kind of know. I know that. Yeah. Oh yeah, LCAP. Okay. Yeah. We're working on that.
You're feeling more confident and you're feeling more fluent in the language of school boardism.
I don't want to say I've had an issue with public speaking because of my background. I guess I was more scripted though. I was used to the script, being given a story, when I was in class in college, you're given a story to kind of read off or whatever, reading from a teleprompter. But speaking freely, I have always been kind of shy about that, improving. But I think that that's getting better. I am feeling more confident.
Can I make an observation? All of that is true, but what I hear reflected in our conversation is not just the confidence that you feel. It sounds like you're really enjoying being on the school board. Like this is meaningful work and you're feeling the impact of it and it's kind of clicking on all cylinders for you. Am I hearing that right?
I think so. Yeah, I am starting to enjoy it. I think about my grandmother's words where she says, God doesn't plant your feet where you're not supposed to be. He plants your feet where you're supposed to be. And I had, initially in the beginning, the feeling of the imposter syndrome. And I think that's one of the things I've been working on the last couple of years. I've actually been doing a lot of professional training. And when you're not in education and you step into this role, you do feel like, oh, I don't think I'm supposed to be here. Like you have that happen a lot. And so I've been working on that feeling of the imposter syndrome that no, I'm supposed to be here. I just have to get more comfortable in being here. And so, yeah, I do feel more confident. I think I'm more confident when I voice concerns at board meetings, whereas before I would stutter a lot. But I think that's I'm getting in my stride. And so I'm actually, I was going back and forth, like, am I going to run again? Because this is my year to run again. I was going back and forth about that. Like, oh, I don't know. Should I run again? Should I? And it's just, there's things I want to do. The prom drive, I definitely want to continue. One of the things I've been researching is I really want to bring back aviation to our district as a career pathway for students. I really want to bring back cosmetology. I've been researching that, trying to, with my superintendent. So yeah, I'm going to run again.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah, exactly right.
I have one last question, and we only have 30 seconds for it, which is, what's your advice to someone who's listening to this, who hasn't decided whether they want to run for their school board or their city council or something, but kind of like, when your friends reached out to you, someone's reaching out to them and saying, you should do this, that you're made for this. What's your advice to people who are at the really early stages of even considering whether they should run?
I would say listen to those that are telling you to run, because sometimes they have a better, they see you better than you see yourself sometimes. Sometimes it takes other people to see you and tell you like, no, you're meant for more, but you're so close that you can't see it. And so try it out. I mean, you run and say after 6 months, you're like, no, this really isn't for me. Okay. It wasn't for you. But if you have people coming to you and they're telling you, we want you to do this, they're seeing something that maybe you don't see. And maybe you're supposed to be in that space. So consider it, listen to them, listen and just take a chance. I still didn't know on that day in August at 4:49 if I really wanted to do it, but I took a chance and it's been exciting. I got to go to Capitol Hill, so yeah, it's one of those things, and you meet so many great people, and you meet people in your community that you might not have met before. It's just take a chance and see where it goes.
Maiaika Velazquez, it has been absolutely wonderful visiting with you. I thank you so much for your candor. I applaud you on your journey to leadership. And I just thank you so much for being open to this conversation. I'm really grateful to you.
I really enjoyed speaking with you, Matt. I thank you so much for having me on.
My thanks again to Maiaika Velazquez, Area 4 trustee with the Monterey Peninsula Unified School District. Listening to Maiaika, I'm deeply grateful for the openness that she brings to being early in a leadership role. She names the learning curve without apology and treats growth not as a weakness, but as a responsibility. Her experience is a reminder that local governance is never about arriving fully formed. It's an ongoing process of getting up to speed, which is why the oath of office for elected leaders so often includes the promise to serve to the best of my ability, an acknowledgement that there is always more to learn, more to understand, and more to consider. Hey, if this conversation sparked an idea, raised a question, or got you thinking about your own leadership, I'd love to hear from you. You're welcome to call me at 602-688-2724 and leave a short message. Ask a question, tell me what you're thinking, or tell me what you'd like to hear explored next. I listen to every message, and your reflections genuinely help shape future episodes. And if you'd like to continue the conversation, you can now find my column on Substack. It's called Democracy Runs on Dialogue, and I've added a direct link in the program notes. And if you'd be open to sharing some of the hard-earned lessons from your own leadership journey, I invite you to apply to be a guest. You'll find the podcast guest link in the show notes. Your story just might inspire and instruct another leader as they work to serve their own community. Community Catalysts is edited by Nick Living the Dream Tantillo. Our executive producer is John Little. I'm Matt Lehrman of Social Prosperity Partners. Thanks for listening. We'll be back soon with another Community Catalyst.